Good afternoon to our viewers in Germany and good morning to our viewers in the United States. I'm Steve Sokol, the president of the American Council on Germany, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's conversation about entertainment, streaming, and the renaissance of German talent on the screen and off the screen. The American Council on Germany is delighted to partner with the German Film Office and the Goethe Institut for a discussion with Sasha Bühler. Sasha serves as director of international films at Netflix and was the creative lead for the films Blood Red Sky and Army of Thieves, both of which ranked #1 worldwide. And her most recent release is All Quiet on the Western Front, which has proven to be a runaway sensation for Netflix since it was launched on the streaming platform last fall. For those of you that don't know, All Quiet ranks 4th on the list of the most popular non-English language films on Netflix and has been in the streamer's own top 10 in over 91 countries, including Germany, the UK, the US, Australia, France, Mexico, and South Korea. The film won several prizes, including Best Picture at the British Academy Film Awards last month, and has been nominated for 9 Oscars. That is quite a success. And so, Sasha, congratulations to you and the team, but it is great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to our conversation and thought that I would maybe set the stage by just letting our viewers and our listeners know that the film All Quiet on the Western Front is of course based on Erich Maria Remarque's classic novel. For those that have not seen it, it offers a really visceral depiction of life and death in the trenches during World War I. And it hits home because it comes at a time when much of the world is gripped by images from the war in Ukraine. But it's also the first German language remake or make of this compelling story by a German director named Edward Berger. And from an article that I read, it sounds as if you were approached earlier about remaking All Quiet, but chose not to pursue it. And I thought we could start our conversation by hearing from you what was different about Edward Berger's approach to the topic, and what was sort of compelling for you to bring it to the screen.
Sure. So in 2019, just when I had started at Netflix, we had started the International Film Initiative. We weren't producing films out of Europe yet. I was sent the script to All Quiet on the Western Front, an adaptation of the book, and it was a clever script. It was, focused on the end of the book, of the end of the war, giving it a nice ticking clock element. For those of you who have seen the film, and I hope you all have, that journey of the uniform at the beginning, which I think is so powerful, was already in. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. But it was a year after 1917 had come out, and I just thought, what do we need to tell this again? World War I is also, it's tricky, to be honest. It's a lot of mud. It's the young men, and I, for one, have trouble. I can never tell people apart in war films. They all, they're all in the same uniform. They're all covered in mud and everything. And I just thought, we've seen this. We've seen this so many times. I'm not sure why we need to do it again. It's a very competent script, but what's different about it? What would stand out about it? And Germans are famously not huge war film fans. So I passed on that project. It was supposed to be an English language film at that point, by the way, I should add, very important, with a South African director who doesn't speak any German. And then a few months later at the Berlinale in February in 2020, the project resurfaced with Edward Berger attached as director and Malte Grunert as producer. And I thought, sure, I'll meet you. Wonder what you're going to do with it. And they had this very, very, very clear vision and of the film they wanted to make, and a very clear purpose for why they wanted to make it. And that's what really hooked me, is that Edward was talking about how all of these war films that he loves, that he grew up on, and as a filmmaker grew up on, that they're heroic tales of glorified battles and that sort of thing. And he felt as a German, it was really, really important to tell our side. First of all, it's a German book, and it was intended as a very strong anti-war message from Remarque. Mm-hmm. And Edward wanted to make sure that we get that perspective, the loser's perspective, to be honest. And that's something you really I've never seen it in a war film before. And to tell it with such visceral, brutal honesty. And I just found that a very exciting approach and something that felt very important. This was before the war had begun in Ukraine, by the way, but it was still, and sadly, it's always been relevant. Young men being swept away by this nationalistic fervor. There were nationalistic, movements in Europe cropping up everywhere. And it felt important already. It felt like something that people should see and people should know about. And at Netflix, because we're in over 190 countries and people can watch, I know every filmmaker wants their film to be shown on the big screen, but I also said to Edward, it's really important that people see this message. It's really important that these young men understand what war really is. The disillusionment happens so quickly in the film, and it's so breathtaking. Even if they're watching it on their cell phone, it doesn't matter. Like, let's let people see this film. And it's been incredibly exciting to see how they have seen the film, how, as you said before, it's been in our top 10 for 14 weeks now. In over 91 countries, it was in the top 10. And it's not an easy watch. It's over 2 hours and it's brutal. So although I've always believed in it and was 100% in on their vision and to support that and make it happen in the best way possible, I was a little bit worried that maybe people wouldn't watch to the end, or we wouldn't get, and it's sort of caught fire. And I noticed at first, obviously I see all the dailies coming in. We worked on the script for ages, see all the dailies coming in, the whole editing process, all of that. And then we showed it to some colleagues and stuff, but it was at the world premiere in Toronto. We had a big screening in a big theater. And at the end, there was stunned silence. And I have never experienced that before. For 25 years, I've been going to all of these film markets, and I have never once sat in a cinema where there was just total quiet afterwards. And then very slowly people started clapping. And I thought, oh, yeah, it resonates. It's having an impact already.
Well, so Sasha, particularly given sort of some of the maybe concerns that you might have had, because it's a long movie and it's not an easy movie to watch, what are some of the elements that you think account for the success of the film? And were you've touched on some of them already, but were you surprised at the way in which it really has taken off, and the fact that it's received a number of awards at the BAFTA, but also that it's been nominated for so many Oscars?
Of course you're surprised. I mean, I knew it was great. I knew it early on, but you can never count on the recognition and the praise. So I'm really, really thrilled with that. I think the reason for it is that we had an incredible filmmaking team with Malta and Edward, and then they assembled the best of the best. Everyone from Volker Bertelmann, who did our music. I mean, that score, that it's becoming iconic, like the Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. People are, it's on TikTok. It's all over the place. It is so powerful, and it's just to the costume design, to the hair and makeup, everyone involved in this was just at the top of their game. And that's it still doesn't always work in film. It's always alchemy if the film comes together, but it definitely, your chances are a little bit better when you have the best of the best.
So last week, I was invited to a screening here in New York, hosted by the German permanent representative to the United Nations and the German consulate. And I'm curious whether Netflix has been invited to do similar screenings for the policy community elsewhere, and whether that's sort of something new for you, right? I mean, it seemed to me it's kind of maybe new access, especially given that any of the people who were in that theater could have just sat at home and watched the movie. Sort of, are you seeing something new unfolding here with a film like this?
We are. It's actually the first time we've seen it as well. It's been incredibly exciting and really meaningful for the filmmakers and for us that, we've been invited to the EU Parliament in Brussels, and the people in the audience, I mean, really from all over Europe, and they've embraced it as a European film, which is very exciting. I mean, it really is. It's a German film with some Austrians and some French. The DOP is British, but otherwise it really is German. And we shot in the Czech Republic.
Mhm.
But it's incredibly encouraging how they've all embraced it, and how it has, like nothing else we've done. We have government relation people at Netflix. We have, we're in constant dialogue with these people, but through this film, through this narrative, it's given us access to policymakers in a way that we really haven't, at a level we haven't before. And that's incredibly exciting. And other embassies, I was in Copenhagen, the German embassy invited us there, and all around we've been feeling the love from the embassies. And it's, I don't know whether that would have happened without the war in Ukraine. I mean, some people say, well, because it's so relevant now because of the war in Ukraine. It's always been relevant, and I'm not sure that helps this film. I mean, there is an actual war going on, and I'm not sure that it makes people necessarily want to see more war, but it does make it more relevant governmentally to really show, have an honest, brutal look at war.
Yeah. I mean, particularly for me as somebody who is very interested in all things German and things originating in Germany, I wanted to see the film on the one hand, but on the other hand, I felt like I don't need a rush to see this film because every day I feel like I'm seeing images from a war zone. And so I was a little reluctant. But then when I had the opportunity to see the film on the big screen, I said, absolutely, because I'm sure that this film was really made for the big screen. I mean, to your point earlier, it's important for people to see it even on screens as small as their phone. But it really is a film that should be seen on a big screen if one can see it that way. And so I guess, one thing I'd be curious about is how has the film been received in Germany in comparison with other places outside of Germany, right? I mean, you talked a little bit earlier about the fact that, Germans are not really that into war movies to begin with, that there are some elements of this film that, are particularly sensitive for a German audience, that the story is told from the perspective of the losers. And I did look at a couple of film reviews in Germany, and they were, some of them were very, very critical because they felt that the script didn't sort of completely adhere to the novel. Not that any film ever completely adheres to a novel, but that there were a couple of elements that were sort of dropped from the original story that might have been useful in the film. How has the response in Germany been to the film?
The response has been overwhelmingly positive. There are always detractors, maybe particularly in Germany. That that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But the response has really been incredibly positive. I mean, we've been really encouraged by it. There's a saying in German which I may get wrong: "Der Flut liftet alle Schiffe." So the flood lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what people have recognized now with those reviews probably came before the recognition, but what we achieved at the BAFTAs with 7 wins, including Best Picture, it's the most successful non-English film of all time at the BAFTAs. It's made history there. 9 nominations at the Oscars, first time ever for a German film, and the first German production ever to be nominated for Best Film. That a testament to what we can do out of Germany. Mm-hmm. It's a testament to the incredible skill and capability. And I mean, I think most of you on this call are not film people, but they shot this film in 52, 53 days. Like it's an incredible feat that they have pulled off. Mm-hmm. And the excellency at every corner, at every, like I said, all the craft nominations, meaning costume, hair and makeup, mm-hmm. sound, all of that kind of stuff. It's wonderful to be recognized for it. And I think the streamers have opened up that ability right now because we are catering to a global audience. And where this film made for a purely German audience with, the traditional method, financing method of a public broadcaster putting in some money and then some money coming from here and coming from there, it'd have to be a tiny, tiny little budget, and you couldn't really do it justice.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to talk about budget too much. I do want to say that there's incredible opportunity right now for filmmakers. It's an incredibly exciting time everywhere, but in Germany as well, for filmmakers in front of and behind the camera to do things that they never had the opportunity to before, to work at a scale that they've never been able to before.
Well, and so, that actually, Sasha, that's a perfect segue to another topic I wanted to ask you about, which is sort of how you see the entertainment industry changing because of these streaming services. I mean, you talked a little bit a moment ago about the fact that, what was created for a local audience can now be created for a global audience. A company like Netflix in what, 191 countries, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty staggering. Certainly as a consumer of this kind of entertainment, whether it's film or TV or television shows, series, I think it's fascinating to get insights into other cultures and other countries and see what people are watching. It's really interesting in that way. But I've never really sort of thought about it from the economic side of things, and the fact that if you are reaching such a wide audience, you'll have perhaps a larger budget than if you're just reaching out to the German-speaking world or a smaller community. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about how you see sort of the sector, transitioning because of services like Netflix?
Yeah, again, I think it's a really, really exciting time to be a filmmaker. We have really strong TV in Germany, and there's great stuff on German TV. We're known for it. But TV is, linear TV, they have programming slots, and Monday night on ZDF at 10 p.m., they show thrillers, and they have to be told linear style, and they have to, there's certain things that they know work and certain things that don't work. And we are completely free to do whatever we want. It's a very different situation all of a sudden, that we can try things out that other people don't have, maybe the budget, but also not the creative. If people tune in on Monday night, they know what they want, and they're going to be upset if you mess up that, that structure that they've always had. So all of the streamers coming in, we offer, I think, more freedom than the traditional methods. And when you're doing theatrical films, it's very important to have like a big name. And there are not that many in Germany. We're not great with stars. We're trying to work on that. I'll come back to that. But, in America, you'll have, it's Keanu Reeves or it's Jennifer Aniston, and you have this big name on the marquee, and people will say, well, I'll watch that because that person's in it. You don't need that on Netflix. In fact, people are really excited to discover new faces on Netflix, which is really, really exciting. And we kind of figured that out by accident, to be honest. And, we've done studies. People are like, no, they really appreciate. They're always the same people that they see over and over again. And they like to see new, fresh faces with us. And that's been, we also we care a lot about diversity at Netflix. We have, because we do cater to a global audience, people want to see their lives reflected on screen. And we don't just have white middle-aged German men watching Netflix. And so we make a big effort to do that, and it's been received so well. That's again, behind and in front of the camera, it's been just a great opportunity. We do have a problem with we don't have enough people in Germany, and we don't have enough diverse people. So we at Netflix are trying very hard to build that up. We have programs in place. We've just we're in the middle of actually a people of color writing workshop. I've just set up a program together with the Melissa Stiftung from Maria Fortwängler, where we support all the film schools in Germany in their I&D efforts to get in early, to raise awareness for the issues. So opportunities all around.
So let's stick with the sort of the young talent or new talent, and the diversity piece for just a moment. Bringing the talent question back to All Quiet. If I understand correctly, the main lead, Felix Camera, was on a film set for the very first time when he made All Quiet. I mean, that's pretty staggering to me. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of his story and how he was discovered?
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible, and it's his first time in front of camera. He was part of the Burgtheater, which is one of the preeminent theaters in Europe, based in Vienna. He was in the company there, and our producer Malte Grunert's wife worked there and said, "You've got to take a look at this kid." And we did a very, very broad casting. We went out to a lot of really famous names and stuff as well. And then we had the casting with him, and we all just we were dumbfounded. His soul comes through, and we will see a lot more of him. I am very, very sure. He sings, he dances, he speaks 4 languages. And a lovely human being on top of it. So that's not the last we see of him. Yeah. Well, I do believe that if this were to have gone with a traditional theatrical company, he would not have gotten that role, because you would need someone more famous.
And I mean, that comes back to what you were saying about, streamers and companies like Netflix having a little bit more flexibility, being able to take some risks, but also being able to identify new talent. When we were talking the other day, I mean, it sounded like there is a great sort of communication network between you and some of your other colleagues, because you might identify somebody who would be good at something, but she or he might not be great for that part that you're looking for, but might be good for something else. And so this is a way just of having that sort of stream of talent. And, I've always thought about Germany being a place where film was important, thinking about the Babelsberg Studio and sort of the history of German film. But it's really interesting to hear you talk about how, we're seeing just a real renaissance in German talent in front of the camera, but also behind of the camera. How you're trying to develop a pipeline for that talent, but also how you're trying to grow diversity both in front of the camera and behind the camera, through some of the programs like the script writing program that you talked about. That is certainly something that I've seen, in some of the Netflix shows that I've watched, where I've been impressed that there are more people of color, maybe not as the leads always, but certainly in the background. One sees a more diverse, a more multicultural community, society. I mean, I have to think that that's done intentionally, on your part, also as a way to bring on the talent. Can you talk a little bit about that sort of approach and strategy?
Well, we, as I think I touched on earlier, we do want to grow stars. Germany doesn't put their stars up on a pedestal in the same way that the US does, or even France does, a lot of other countries. And so we're trying to say, how can we bring more people in? I think there are like 3 white male German actors that are considered stars, and everyone else, how meaningful are they? So what we do, because we're a global company, for example, Matthias Schweighöfer, who's already a star in Germany, he's one of the 3, and Matthias, for example, we cast him in Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's huge film out of the US, and then we took that character and we did a spin-off in Army of the Dead. We did the spinoff to Army of the Thieves. And we're doing that over and over again, that the US reaches out to us and says, hey, we've got this big thing. Who's hot in Germany right now? Who's hot in France? Who's hot in Spain? And then we'll recommend people, and they will see which films they can put them in. I have a film coming up with a German actress who also speaks French. That's the other nice thing about Europeans. They speak so many languages. So we're working on getting it all into some format in the computer where we can search according to languages and, skills and all of that kind of thing. And she has just done she's a German actress. She did a series with us. Now she just did a French series. Now she's going to come back to do a German film with me. We're a 360 company. We have film, we have series, we have nonfiction, we have documentaries. So we can sort of shift people around and build people through that, which is really, really exciting. I think Matthias is on his 5th film with us right now.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's a real opportunity. Or when I see somebody early on, it may be just in dailies, or I'm doing castings with someone. I say, oh God, this person isn't right for me, but I'll call our casting people in LA and say, take a look at this person, keep an eye on this person. I talk with agents in the US and stuff, and I say, you know what? There's someone that could be really interesting for you. And so it's a very exciting pipeline for them that they didn't have access to before. I should also mention that in 2020, we saw for the first time that people on Netflix watch more subbed and dubbed programs than they do in original. So language does not matter anymore. Germans speak English anyway. That's not an issue. You can get a dialogue coach or something, but they're very excited for international cast. And we even have them often, not always, because it's a different skill set, but we even have European cast dub themselves into English when we do the English dub.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Language obviously plays a role, and I think you've raised a good point about so many European actors being able to perform in multiple languages, which is great, and it brings kind of an authenticity to the screen that one doesn't necessarily have otherwise. But also that, as you talked about, that there is this network and you're able to direct people in certain directions. One of the things that we talked about when we spoke previously was that the entertainment industry is also changing because there are more women in decision-making roles at a higher level. And so I guess one of the things I'd be curious about is, are different films being made with that sort of transition in the film industry?
First of all, there are not enough women in decision-making positions. I'm happy to say that Netflix is doing quite well there, but there are definitely not enough, and definitely not enough in Germany. And I do think it makes a difference. There's no question about it. I'm like a broken record when we're working on a script. Female characters, work on the female characters, flesh them out, make them real characters. There's a new initiative in Germany. I'm not sure whether you've heard about it, called 47 Plus. And it's a bunch of actresses that have come together and said, Germany is 30%, more than 30% of Germans are over 60 years old. We have a very, very old population here. Mm-hmm. And yet you never see women over 47 on screen. And I care deeply about that representation as well. That's also part of diversity. And mm-hmm. I care deeply that the roles that we are giving to women are fully fleshed out roles and not just there to support a man.
Mm-hmm. So maybe related to that, we just got a viewer question from somebody who's very curious to know who some of the sort of big female German actors are at the moment. This person goes on to ask whether Nina Hoss might be one of them. She was in Netflix's The Defeated.
And she's right now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, we've got some great ones. We've got, I don't know whether you guys have seen Cleo. So Kleo. It's a fantastic series with Jelle Haas, who's an incredible, incredible actress. The Empress, Die Kaiserin series, the lead in that, no, I can't pronounce her name. She's fantastic, really surprising, not well known, and just came out of nowhere. Peri Baumeister, who was the lead in Blood Red Sky and was not really famous at that point, and is in 2 series of ours coming up, has done all kinds of stuff with us. There are some wonderful female actors. We have a film coming up, Paradise, with Iris Berben in it, which is really fun. Yeah, I don't know where to begin.
So there is so much sort of, in addition to your film, there's so much German content on Netflix, right? I mean, I'm thinking about Dark, 1899, Biohackers, The $1 Billion Code, and you can even watch Babylon Berlin on Netflix. Why do you think German language films and series are sort of playing such a great role on streaming services, and particularly on Netflix? And do you think that the same can be said for other countries, or is there something really special going on in the German film and television industry at the moment?
We do have programs from all over. And to be perfectly honest, no one was more surprised than I was how Germany took off as it did. When I started at Netflix, I was handling all of Northern Europe. So Germany, France, Nordics, and Eastern Europe. And France and Nordics have a long, long tradition of exporting talent and storytelling, all of these things. And we weren't getting the same kind of submissions from Germany. And I thought, oh, this is going to be rough. This is going to be. And then look, we've had great successes in the other, Lupin, for example, Casa de Papel. We've had amazing successes from around Europe, Troll, Black Crab. And yet Germany has really, really taken the lead. And all these conventions like comedy doesn't travel. And then comes how to sell drugs online fast, the quirkiest, smallest, and it's just internationally a huge success. Dark, 1899, like you said. I wish I could explain it, but it's totally thrilling to see. I think that we're great at the crafts, and I think that they've just been able to show their stuff now. They have Germans film and series has not been as supported as, the Nordics and France has, for example, a great tradition of supporting their artists, and Germany, not so much. There hasn't been a lot of money and a lot of encouragement to go above and beyond. So I think that's part of the boom, is that they've been unleashed.
I mean, there is definitely something dark about films like the ones that you were involved with, like Blood Red Sky and Army of Thieves, but then also some of these streaming series like Cleo, but also like Dark and Biohackers, and yet the sort of the art of what is being produced is just so incredible in each of these series. They're very, very different. And as you say, How to Sell Drugs Online Fast brings, a comedic element. I think a show like Cleo has some of that as well. There's some humor mixed in there as well. But these are shows that also have sort of a real dark side in a way. Do you think that appeals to the German psyche in a way too? I mean, is that something that one sees regularly in popular culture, popular shows in Germany at this point?
I wouldn't. I always find it surprising how much Germans really like levity. I think that most people would not think that about Germans. The Scandinavians are known for their Scandi noir, their feel bad movies. Germany's really like levity, and we do a lot of that as well. By the way, I have tomorrow a little plug for my Far Away, a film coming out. Please watch it. It's a rom-com. It's light and it's life affirming and escapist and fun and funny, the opposite of All Quiet. So we do that as well. I think there really is we cover every genre, and we cover genres that you haven't traditionally seen out of Germany. You haven't seen action, you haven't seen science fiction, these kinds of things. We try and do things a little bit differently than what you see. So you'll see a lot of thrillers, and we're doing those as well, but we try and do it with a little bit of a twist. Otherwise, you don't need a Netflix subscription. You can get it on TV. And as I said, we do have really strong TV. Then you don't need to come to us. We have to offer something different. And I believe strongly it must be top level production quality. That's something that people expect from us. We're held to a different standard in that, because we're held to the standard of everything else that's on Netflix. Whereas if you're at TV and you're at RTL, you're held to everything else that's on RTL, but not so much, for us, it's different. So we do try and sort of twist and turn the stereotypes, what you're used to seeing here, and offer something new.
Coming back to something that you said, one of our viewers is picking up on the 47 plus idea, right? That you had mentioned of making sure that there's more engagement with women over 47, how women are depicted, that they have full roles. And she, says that she feels like as a screenwriter who's over 40, there's almost no interest in ideas that are produced by an older generation. Can you talk a little bit about sort of where some of the ideas and some of the stories come from that ultimately lead to the kinds of productions that you pursue?
Yeah. And sadly, I'm going to agree with this writer that is normally the case. I do not feel that way at all. We're looking for different voices. We get involved at every stage. Far Away, this film that's coming out tomorrow, was an original idea of ours. And we hired a writer and worked on it. Then we hired a producer, and then we cast the film. But also people come to us and say, I've got an idea. It could be a sentence. And if we really believe in it, we'll say, let's go with it. Let's start to develop it together. Sometimes people come with a fully packaged film ready to go. Packaged film means that there's a director and a producer and cast and heads of departments are all sort of lined up, and we can just go with it. So we can get involved at any stage. And I really, really do believe that great stories can come from anywhere and can be enjoyed everywhere. All Quiet is a very, very authentic German film. And I think it's important to be truthful and authentic. I'm not sure whether truthful is the right word. But if you're telling a story of from an older female perspective, it doesn't mean that you shut out a younger perspective, shut out a younger audience. And we work on that to say, how can we, my team, I look for diversity in my team. I don't have all middle-aged white women because we've got one of those. So we have different perspectives to hear different ideas of how they see things. And that's, I think it's important, and I am interested in stories. And please watch Far Away, because that is a film about a woman about 50 years old. It is made by women. It is our director, our producer, our DO, our camera woman, everything, all women. It was pretty fun.
Well, and it comes back to, I think, something that you were saying before about, really trying to promote diversity and be inclusive, and that there are opportunities to streaming companies that we haven't seen before. So, I'm taking away from this conversation that there is sort of a space for all sorts of different perspectives, given just the rapid growth of screening opportunities. It means that you as a viewer are benefited because you have access to so much more. But it also means that in the industry, there are many more opportunities to tell those stories and to find a place where there's interest in hearing them. So I think that's pretty exciting.
One anecdote, a film I have coming out in July, Paradise. And we were looking for, it's sort of an action-y thriller, and we were looking for an older actress to play this action role. Well, we couldn't find them because they've never had that opportunity before. There were never roles like this for women. Mm-hmm. We also wanted to cast it diverse. It's hard enough finding younger people to cast diverse, but try getting someone in their 70s. Very, very, very challenging. So we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a lot to do, but it also sounds as if with the opportunities that have existed, that have now opened up, a lot has been done. And so, I think kudos to you and to others in the field for keeping an eye on that and really trying to bring about some of these changes. But it's also really exciting to see how this will continue to unfold. In closing, I'd like to maybe come back to All Quiet and a viewer question. One of our viewers, says that he really enjoyed the film. It was a great film. He points out that maybe part of some of the success is the name recognition of the film based on Remarque's novel. But then he goes on to say, why did the director and screenwriter choose to end the movie in a way that has nothing to do with the book? And so actually sort of flip Remarque's premise in that way. I'm not sure if you have an answer to that, but it might be something that you and Edward Berger, talked about at some point, and you might have some insights to share.
Sure. Remarque himself said he's looking forward to his book being adapted. And that, as Steve, as you had said, that's when you adapt intellectual property, you do have to adapt it for the screen. And I know some people, the Remark Society, by the way, is ecstatic about this film, I should say. In Germany has been very supportive of it. It was a decision throughout. We discussed, for example, the politicians in the train and stuff like that. That wasn't in the book either. But we felt it was very important from the German perspective to show that side of things and to set up the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
We dropped an Easter egg there of, you are not leaving your partners happy. You are not, let's find a compromise. And they said no. And we're seeing that happening again, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something we decided. We talked about for ages, how much of it we show, how little of it, and in the editing room, taking it in, taking it out, all that. And in the end, we decided that was the most impactful way to tell the film, the stillness, the quietness of our lead, Paul Bäumer, at the end, and stay on him at the final moments.
Mm-hmm.
We felt that was the best way to show the senselessness of what had happened.
Yeah. And I think, I think certainly for anybody who's watching and listening to this, who has not seen the film, it is a must see. It's well worth seeing. It is hard to watch, as we both talked about, but it is a very moving story. And it's one that I hope many more people will go and see. So with that, Sasha, let me just say herzlichen Dank. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. On behalf of the German Film Office, the Goethe Institut, and of course, the American Council on Germany, we are delighted that you were able to talk to us today. And we wish you and the whole team the best of luck at the Oscars later this month.
Thank you so much. Thank you.